Welcome to my table of treats. You now have an array of lots of different tools that you can have lots of fun with. You may look at some of these things and think, whoa, that's not for me.
Yep.
The problem with going on reality TV and playing a character is, with time, you become so relaxed and the mask falls off. And this is the situation with Stephen. Sadly, he played himself. It didn't play out as well as he thought it was going to play out. So that tantrum wasn't worth it. And oh my God, I loved the workshop. I really did. The way Dean was like a kid in a candy store. Oh, poor thing. And then Leah, for her and that lingerie bra or whatever she was wearing, the way she was so comfortable with it. Oh my God, I couldn't help myself but laugh. And I'm here for Grace trying her best. I said it before and I'll say it again. I think Grace found out that this man comes from money, and this is why she suddenly made the turnaround. Because if we all remember how she behaved on the honeymoon to how she behaved here, day and night. So I can't wait to see what's happening there. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK, season 10, episode 9. Anyway, so we have the couples back in their apartments. You have Key having a conversation with Davide, and Davide is apologizing that I'm so sorry you went alone yesterday, but I'll make sure that next time you don't go alone. I know how uncomfortable it was, so thank you for going to sort of more or less represent us. And I think because they're in a very good space, this is why it was easier for Key to go on his own, and the letter helped. I personally am questioning how, if Davide was such an amazing guy, he was single, because he is good looking. Yes, his job, he travels, but why has he been single this long? I think a mask is going to fall off there once Stephen leaves the experiment. I'm willing to bet anything on that. You have Sarah and Dean. Dean is saying he was blindsided because he didn't realize that Sarah had been saying all the bad things she had been saying behind his back. And so finding out was very upsetting. And he was upset at the fact that she disrespected him, because it sounds like this is one of his sort of no-go areas. And so for her to disrespect him, he feels some type of way. And Sarah on her part is saying this was a wake-up call. I need to be more sensitive to Dean. No, she realized that she was getting a negative edit. And so she's decided to sort of pretend like she's turning a corner. She's not turning a corner. She is worried about what the fans will say when she leaves the show, because I think she knows that there's bound to be backlash. And it is coming. It is a coming. Julia Rose and Devon, they are a couple that need to leave the experiment immediately, because the way she's throwing tantrums, I don't like it. I really don't like it. I know he's got his issues, but the fact that she's now interrogating him and making it seem like he's a student, it makes me question. If you were so giddy and excited on wedding day, what happened since wedding day to put you in the position that you're in, to make you feel the way you do about this man? Because nothing about it is making sense. Apparently the ceremony helped them, so they learned that they need to work on their communication. They need to work on a lot more than communication. They need to work on the yin and the yang, because it's not making sense. The seesaw is too much for us. It's giving me, vertigo, someone like myself. Anita and Paul, Anita is still upset. She's still in her apartment. She says she wants Paul to be inquisitive. She wants him to ask her more questions. If he doesn't ask questions or seem interested, then she's leaving. Paul was right to say, you came in, yes, you wanted a connection, but you wanted an instant connection. This is it. She wanted to go at the pace that she's going at. And because she's had her time wasted by somebody else, she's now putting this man on a clock, and she'll never get anyone to perform according to her time. This is going to be a problem for her unless she does the work to change that. We then see Rebecca and Bailey. What I don't like in the experiment is when a couple speaks about another couple instead of their connection. I start to question what is wrong in your relationship. Anyway, apparently the couples, after the commitment ceremony, they all went out. They were having a great time. And then Stephen was shutting down because people were asking him to compliment his wife. And personally, I feel it's nobody's business. They don't need to tell him what to do. Unless he's doing something to hurt her, they don't need to tell him what to do, because this creates a situation whereby there is tension in the household, because someone is starting to question that, what were you saying behind my back? Stephen on his part says he didn't like the fact that Key asked him to sort of compliment his wife and he refused. He didn't want to perform on demand, which is not a good look. If you perform on demand, then you start questioning, is it genuine or is it just doing it to shut everybody else up? So I get where he was coming from. He said, it appeared as though to him that his wife had been talking about him behind his back, and why was suddenly everybody encouraging him to sort of compliment his wife? He didn't need people to sort of push him. And he said it to her before, that I offer encouragement, but if I get to a point where I feel like I've done enough, then I'm not going to continue. And so for her, it's now a matter of doing the work that she needs in order to heal herself and not get reassurance from somebody else. She can't use people to apologize for somebody else's mistake. This is more or less what it seems like to someone like me. Key, on his part, doesn't see what he did wrong. He feels like, he was speaking up for his friend, and he didn't do anything wrong. On her part, Nellie is saying she's worried that this might push him away. So he decides, he's going to go and speak to Key. And it's like, that's not a good look. That is not a good look. It's not going to end well. He went and he spoke to Key, and Key was with David. And Key is saying, I'm here for my marriage and nothing else. And I'm not responsible for your assumptions. Because for you to assume that I was talking about you or your wife was talking about me, that has nothing to do with me. That is something you need to address with your wife. And so, kudos to him. Kudos to him. Yes, Stephen wants to set boundaries and tell people stay out of my marriage. Maybe he needs to have conversations with his wife first before he starts speaking to the rest of the group. Leah and Lee were having a conversation. Lee is upset because she felt like Leah was being overly familiar with Rebecca, and she feels like, that's not right. They say she was being jealous, so they're realizing that she's developing feelings for Leah. And it's like, it shouldn't take that for you to develop feelings or to realize you're developing feelings. Apparently, they shared a kiss after, and she said her feelings are growing. I feel like they shared a kiss because she wanted to mark her territory, and she wanted to make sure that Leah sort of knew that she was interested in her. I don't think it was genuine, but I could be wrong. The experts then come up with week 1 of Experts Week, and so couples are given individual tasks to carry out. And so you have 3 couples, Sarah and Dean, Grace and Ashley, and Lee and Leah. They are to attend the intimacy workshop. You had Sarah and Dean. Sarah's putting on a brave face and she's saying she's happy to do this. And I was like, really? Grace on her part is worried and hoping that there's no massaging. And it's like, it's intimacy week. What do you expect, Sherlock Holmes? So they went to the workshop. Charlene was there. She gave them robes that were matching for the couples to wear. And so they got there, and then they had sort of 2 individual stages. The first individual stage was whereby they got to massage their partner. And on her part, I have to give her kudos. Grace was a good sport. Grace's turnaround, yes, it could be it's a moment of self-reflection and growth and whatever. But it also could be she's realized that this man is coming from money. It could be she's realized this man is coming from money, and so she might not need to work for NHS as much as she does. She might need to work as a hobby, but not because she does need to. Anyway, I digress. She did participate, and she did allow this man to massage her. She said she felt comfortable because he's a good massager. I think because they've built rapport. Although you could tell from her face that she was just trying to be a good sport. She was trying to compensate for the fact that he has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, so she wanted to show that she's a good sport and she's doing her part. Leah and Lee spilled oil over, Lee wasn't happy with that, and she felt like, Leah was doing the best of jobs. You had Sarah and Dean. Dean was excited to touch Sarah. That's it. As long as he could put his hands on Sarah, he was happy. Whatever he did, he was happy. And it's really sad because this poor genius is really trying and his wife is really not that keen. So after that task, they then went into another stage of the sex workshop where there were sex toys and they had everything on the counter. And it was just like, oh my God, this is a bit too much. I would be overstimulated. So they then got to play. Initially, they were asked to take one thing from the table and use it on their partner. Leah, I don't know why or whether she's trying to tell her partner to shut up. She shoved this massive straw into poor Lee's mouth, and Lee was just like, oh my God. With Ashley, he was good. He was good. You actually had Lee sort of saying, I wish that were me. And Sarah and Dean, they were not doing anything. I couldn't say anything. And then Leah sitting there and just munching away on the confectionery, on the the lingerie was just the most hilarious thing. Then they were given a task to say, fill in the blanks. So first was Ashley and Grace. Right now I'm feeling, and Grace said she's feeling intrigued. With Lee and Leah, it was like, I love it when you're, and Lee said when you're cuddly, but it's, she then said that only when you're cuddly. And it's like, oh my God, don't call out the negativity. So you had Lee now in her feelings, finding something to grasp on and saying, oh, why do you always pick apart anytime I try and do something right? This is why I don't do it, because you're always picking it apart. And it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's not that deep. Julia Ruth and Devon were given a task to rank each other's values. Personally, I have an issue with Julia Rose's list. Yes, she has issues with her husband's list, but I have issues with hers. Okay, for Devon to say children is at the top of his list. Intelligence, honest, humor, ambition, occupation, money, sex, and looks is the last. On her part, Julia Rose wrote humor, looks, honesty, sex, ambition, intelligence, money, occupation, and children last. And so she had an issue with the fact that he put sex and looks last. I have no problem with him putting it there at the bottom of the list. I think first off, they should have started with honesty. They should have started with intelligence. Those are important things. They should have started ambition. They could have talked about occupation. They could have spoken about children. Children is important, especially if you plan on having children. So the idea that you had Julia Ruth focusing on the fact that he put looks and sex last doesn't make sense. She's sort of implying that, look at me, why would you put, my looks last? And it's like, girl, over time your boobs will go south. Your looks will fade. Your skin will start to sag. And so the idea that you're so focused on looks will never last forever. There are other things that will last forever, whereas things like looks, they fade. But anyway, I digress. So I can't wait to see them continue to fight on that. Rebecca and Bailey also had a task to tell each other their most devastating thing or most upsetting thing. And Bailey asked, have you ever broken someone's heart? And Rebecca said, when she broke off her engagement, because she had already built a house with this man, she had accepted a proposal, and so the idea that she had to break his heart and break off with him, this is something that really was upsetting for her. And I get it, I really do. And hopefully, this is a teachable moment. This is a moment of growth, and she doesn't repeat the same mistakes that she made the first time round. David and Key's was, where do you think you've gone wrong in your previous relationship? And Key, on his part, said, I haven't presented as my honest self. I've always tried to play a persona or present myself in a certain way. And so my partners have never truly got to know me. And this is the first time that I'm presenting me as me, which is good for him. It's a moment of growth. And then Davide was asked, Davide asked, tell me 3 things you'd change about me. You had Key say your job, because it takes you away for long periods of time, your body image issues, and it's like, what body image issues does he have? He looks amazing. And then apparently he tends to overthink. I didn't realize this. I really didn't. So this is a new moment for me. With Paul and Anita is looking for an excuse to sort of run out the first door, because the question was, ask me anything. And Paul's question was, will you give the marriage enough time? And she said, I don't have time. I don't have time because I wasted 17 years with somebody. I'm 54 years old, and so I don't have time to be hanging around and messing about with someone, because how long is a piece of string? How long am I supposed to wait for? And it's like, can you hear yourself? You're judging somebody else's mistakes or somebody else's shortcomings on this man. This man is not perfect, but at the same time, you can't judge him by a ruler that you didn't judge your ex on. You wasted 17 years with somebody, but now you want this man in 2 weeks to give you what that man couldn't give you in 17 years. Make that make sense? So I really don't get it, and I was side-eyeing her. With Mev and Joe, they got a visit from Paul, because apparently Mev has issues with her self-image and how she carries herself. So she doesn't like to hear positive things about herself. And she says because this is as a result of a previous relationship. So she had to look in the mirror and repeat things that, Joe was saying to her. And this should come naturally to Joe, because he is an empowerment person. He works with people to help them sort of work on themselves and improve their body image issues. So it was nice to see. At least the experts are putting in the work. I love it on Married at First Sight when experts put in work and allow people to grow their connection and actually have successful relationships. So I really loved that activity, and they really seemed closer after it. You then had the couples go out. When they went out, the wives went on their own, the husbands went on their own, and Stephen and Key had to be separated, obviously. The husbands were talking about this issue with Stephen and his wife, and it's like, it's not that deep. It really is not that deep. I wish we could move on from it. Why are we focusing on it? Is it because there's going to be an issue with it or what? Because I don't understand why we're making such a big fuss about this man not reassuring his wife. He is having to pay for somebody else's shortcomings, and that I don't like. I'm not saying Stephen is perfect, but at the same time, this woman needs to sort of get the help she needs. She can't expect this man to be, repairing something that somebody else broke. I don't get it, and I don't understand why we are in this space whereby we have to watch her sort of complain bitterly about her ex and how her ex didn't treat her very well. On the ladies' part, this conversation also came up. And it's like, this is now being made into a big deal. I don't know whether it's because this man is about to leave the experiment or whether it's for some other reason. I am as confused as anybody else in regards, why are we hearing so much about this man not being the husband that he should be for his wife? So it seems there's going to be drama. You had Leah bring up the issue she's having with her wife about how her wife felt that Rebecca and her were flirting. Rebecca said, Leah, it reminds her of home. Whereas it came out that apparently Lee said her exes have looked like Rebecca. And it's like, wow, now it makes sense. Now we know why her wife was upset with her. Now we know why she felt some type of way and she wanted to make sure that she locked down her partner. So I can't wait to see where all that mess ends. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 8. Bye guys.